I inherited an old, abandoned hospital about 3 weeks ago. I'm 34, an insurance adjuster who works from home. After a bad breakup, I felt stuck. I thought a weekend at the hospital would clear my mind. I had never been inside before. I only saw it from the outside, the broken windows, the peeling paint. It looked haunted. I thought about how I would never stop thinking about that weekend that I arrived late in the evening. The air felt thick with silence. I stepped over the tall weeds and walked to the entrance. My flashlight flickered in the darkness, making me feel uneasy. I unlocked the front door, and the hinges creaked like a gone forever cry. Stepping inside, a chill washed over me, but I told myself it was just the damp air. I set my things down in what used to be the waiting room. As night fell, I tried to shake off the odd feeling. I figured I was just tired. Maybe the soft sound I heard was just the old building settling. But then I started hearing footsteps. They echoed down the hallways, quiet but there. It was strange, but I told myself it must be animals. I turned on the old radio I had brought, hoping to drown out the noise. It didn't work. With each hour that passed, the footsteps seemed to get closer. My heart raced faster. I decided to explore the upper floors, thinking that if I saw nothing, I'd feel better. I climbed the stairs slowly. The wood creaked beneath my weight. Each step felt heavy. I paused on the second floor. I heard a shuffling sound from the hallway. I held my breath. Maybe it was the wind. I wasn't sure. Just as I thought to turn back, I saw words scrawled on the wall that I could barely make them out in the dim light. They never left. Fear crawled up my spine, but maybe someone had done it for fun. I tried to convince myself it was a joke, but I felt something watching me. I hurried back downstairs, my skin prickling. I was sweating. The thought of leaving crossed my mind. Later, I sat on the edge of the bed. I listened closely. The footsteps continued. They sounded so real. By morning, I had so many questions. I couldn't shake the feeling that the hospital held secrets. I wanted to understand, but then the footsteps stopped suddenly. A chill ran down my spine. Then I heard a whisper, soft but clear. "Why did you come back?" My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the door, which was slowly creaking open. Panic surged through me. I felt like I was stuck, frozen in place. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. The door opened wider, revealing darkness that seemed to breathe. I stepped back, but my legs felt like lead. A part of me wanted to run, but I just stood there, caught in the abyss. That was when I realized. I had come here to escape my past, but something in that old hospital wanted me to stay. I didn't understand why, but deep down, I felt I had awakened something. Something that never left. I didn't know what to think as I stood there, mouth dry and heart racing. The door creaked open wider, and darkness spilled out, thick like smoke. I took a shaky step backward, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the shadowy figure that seemed to linger, just out of sight. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the room, breaking the trance. I jumped, my hands trembling as I grabbed my flashlight. The noise had come from the other end of the hallway. I blinked, trying to adjust my eyes to the dim light. My instinct screamed at me to leave, but curiosity tugged at my feet. At the end of the corridor, I moved slowly, shining the light in front of me. The beam danced over dusty chairs and scattered debris. Nothing seemed alive except for a faint flicker of movement, a shadow darting just beyond my grasp. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. As I approached the source of the noise, I noticed a door slightly ajar. It led to what looked like an old storage room. My flashlight illuminated the edges of the door, revealing peeling paint and rusted hinges. My gut twisted. I pushed the door open. It creaked loudly in protest and I winced at the sound. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Old medical supplies lay scattered, forgotten. In the corner, I spotted an old wheelchair tipped onto its side. My flashlight caught something shiny on the floor, and I bent down, wiping away the layers of grime. I lifted a small silver locket that as I opened it, my breath caught again. Inside was a faded photograph of a woman, her eyes striking and mournful. I felt a pull in my chest. I glanced around the room, feeling as if I was being watched. What happened here? I whispered to the emptiness. Before I could process this new revelation, I heard it again, the faint footsteps. They were back, echoing behind me down the hallway. I spun around, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, but I saw nothing. The feeling of being watched intensified, and I realized I wasn't alone. Heart racing, I clutched the locket tightly in my hand. I backed away from the storage room, my instincts urging me to escape. Just as I turned to leave, the door slammed shut behind me. My breath hitched. I rushed for the door, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, the air turning frigid around me. I knocked on the door, panic flooding my veins. "Let me out. Please." I shouted, my voice trembling. In that moment, I knew it wasn't just the past weighing me down. It was something here, something lost, and it was desperate for attention. I could feel it. I needed answers. But all I could think was that I might be trapped forever in this haunted past. Then I heard it again, a whisper, louder this time, almost desperate. "Why did you come back?" I froze. Who was asking? I felt the locket burn in my palm. I had to find out. But how? The door held firm against my frantic pushing. A chill crept into my bones, and panic clawed at my throat. I dropped to my knees, jamming my shoulder against the heavy wood while shouting, "Please. Someone help." My voice was small, swallowed by thick walls. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a dark tide. "Why did you come back?" The words echoed in my mind, tangled with fear. I had no answer. Suddenly, the whispers faded, replaced by a haunting groan, a sound of despair. I paused, listening closely. It felt like the very walls were breathing, as if they held the weight of countless secrets. That sound, it wasn't just air moving, it felt alive, yearning. I pressed my ear against the door, hoping to catch a hint of where it was coming from, then I heard it. A faint rustle, a dragging sound crawling toward me from the shadows. My pulse quickened. Was it coming from the storage room? Or was something behind me? I decided I couldn't stay here, locked away with whatever had been awakened. I scrambled back to my feet, racing around the room looking for another exit. The flashlight in my hand flickered, casting long shadows across old boxes and furniture. I felt a bead of sweat slip down my back, mixing with the cold sweat pooling in my palms. In the far corner, a window caught my eye, partially covered with grime. I rushed over and pulled at the frame. The wood resisted but finally gave way with a loud crack. Light spilled in, but it also told me the drop outside was far too steep to escape easily. I could see the remains of a garden, overtaken by weeds and thyme. Panic coursed through me again. I had to find a way out. That's when I saw it, a glint beneath one of the beds piled high with dust-covered crates. I knelt, digging through the layers of decay. My fingers brushed against something cool and metallic. It was a small key, its surface dull but intact. Could it be the one I needed to escape this nightmare? As I rose to my feet, the dragging sound grew closer, and I spun around, flashlight beam darting across the room. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but I had to know. I had to confront whatever lingered in the darkness. Holding the key tightly, I approached the door again, heart thumping in my chest. I took a deep breath, bracing myself. With shaking fingers, I slid the key into the lock. The moment it clicked open, a wave of cold washed over me. The door creaked ominously as I pushed it ajar. What I saw next stopped me cold. The hallway was no longer empty. Shadows moved with purpose, figures just out of sight, flickering at the edge of my vision. I couldn't turn back now. I had to move forward, even with the certainty that something awaited me, hidden in the dark. My legs felt heavy, but I stepped through the doorway, determined to uncover the truth of this haunted place. As I crossed the threshold, the whispers returned, filling me with an urgent dread. Why did you come back? It was a question that begged for an answer one I still didn't have. But as I moved deeper into the shadows, I felt a strange sense of purpose unfold. I needed to understand what had happened long ago, not just for myself, but for the lost souls that lingered here. The hallway stretched out in front of me, dim and ominous. Shadows danced along the walls, teasing me with shapes that seemed to flicker in the corner of my eye. I took a cautious step forward, straining my ears to catch the faintest sound. The whispers were still there, but now they felt distant, as if I was stepping into another realm altogether. I clutched the small key tightly in my hand, its cold metal grounding me amid the rising panic. My flashlight beam flickered erratically as I moved, the light catching glimpses of faded posters peeling from the walls. Each room I passed felt like a portal to a time that had long been forgotten. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and the murmur of conversations that once filled this space, then I heard it again, the dragging sound. Only this time, it was closer. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. My instincts screamed at me to run, to flee back to the safety of that locked room, but the need to face whatever was lurking was stronger that I crept toward the source of the sound, my pulse drumming in my ears. Another step, then another. The air turned thick, charged with something I couldn't name. Just as I reached the doorway of a small room on my left, the dragging stopped abruptly. A chill swept over me, crawling up my spine. Peering inside, I saw a dark figure standing in the shadows, still, unmoving. I could barely make out a shape, but it felt as if it was watching me. My breath hitched in my throat. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer. Just the echo of my own voice bouncing off the walls. That I took a step closer, drawn in like a moth to a flame. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind me. I spun around, light fumbling wildly, but there was nothing there, just empty hallway and the oppressive silence pressing in. The figure still stood there, but now it seemed to inch forward. My heart raced. Instinctively, I stepped back into the doorway, and that's when I noticed something on the floor, traces of wet footprints leading away from the figure and into another room further down the hall. The realization hit me hard. Whoever or whatever was here had been moving just moments before I arrived. Fueled by curiosity and fear, I followed the tracks, the glow of my flashlight illuminating the path. They led me to an old room, the door slightly ajar. I hesitated. Something told me not to go in, but the truth was just out of reach, dangling like a brittle thread. That I pushed the door open. The hinges creaked in protest, and the sight before me took my breath away. Papers lay strewn across the floor, but what caught my eye was an old photograph pinned to the wall, its edges yellowed, the faces blurred. I stepped closer, but before I could examine it further, a sudden noise echoed behind me, sharp and disturbing. "Who is there?" I called out, panic rising again. Silence answered, but I could feel the presence grow, warmth pooling in the air just beyond my shoulder. That pulling sensation returned, stronger than before. I turned slowly, and that's when I realized I was not alone. The figure loomed closer behind me, its features finally coming into sight. I could see its face, but what it revealed turned my blood to ice. "Why did you come back?" the whisperer asked again, now clear and menacing. A cold surge of fear washed over me. I needed to answer, but all I could do was stare, rooted in place, my mind racing as everything began to unravel. I felt the walls close in around me as the figure took another step forward. Its face was gaunt, eyes sunken, full of a sorrow I couldn't comprehend. Every instinct told me to run, yet I stood frozen, caught in a web of dread. "Why did you come back?" it repeated, voice a distorted echo that seeped into my bones. It was no longer just a question, it was an accusation. My throat felt tight as I wrestled with my urge to flee, to break the oppressive silence that felt like a shroud. That I opened my mouth, desperate to say something, anything, but nothing came out. Just an empty gasp, as if the air had been stolen from my lungs. Maybe it was true, in some dark way. I had come back, seeking answers, confronting what I had avoided for so long. But facing it felt utterly different than uncovering the layers of memory wrapped in shame and fear. Why? It pressed, advancing further, and I recoiled instinctively. The figure extended a hand, fingers thin and long, reminiscent of echoes from an age I couldn't place. In that moment, all I could think about was the key clutched in my fist. I envisioned its cold metal helping me unlock something deep within, but now, here, facing this specter, I was completely disarmed. Then, out of nowhere, the air shifted again, and darkness seemed to swirl behind me. I turned just in time to see the shadows retract, revealing the room I had just entered, the scattered papers now stirring as if caught in a sudden breeze. My heart raced anew. It felt like the building exhaled, and the reflection of my flashlight danced erratically across the walls. "Leave," I heard someone whisper from within the room, a voice layered in desperation. It wasn't the figure behind me. This voice came with a sense of urgency that felt like a warning. I reacted on instinct, my feet suddenly finding the strength to move. I sprinted back into the dim hallway, the beams of my flashlight bouncing wildly as I turned toward the nearest exit. The dragging sound returned, louder, more chaotic, echoing behind me like a relentless predator that I needed to escape. The weight in my chest only grew heavier as I ran, fear propelling me forward faster than I thought possible. The light flickered, revealing fleeting glimpses of the past, tiny glimpses of shadowed figures in the corners of my vision, as if the hallway was alive with memories. Suddenly, I reached a door at the end of the hall, its surface cracked and splintered. I slammed into it, pushing hard until it creaked open. My flashlight's beam skidded across another room, but this one felt different. The air was charged, almost electric. Inside, I saw movement. A figure, a woman spinning around, her silhouette stark against the light filtering through the broken windows. "That's not the way," she shouted, voice strident and laced with despair. "You'll never get out." Panic rushed through me. "Who are you? What do you mean?" But as her eyes met mine, understanding crashed over me. I didn't know what to believe anymore. And just then, the dragging sound returned, louder than ever, vibrating through the walls. It was going to catch up to me that I turned back to the hallway, heart pounding wildly. And there it was, the figure standing at the end, waiting, watching, intent on asking me again. "Why did you come back?" But I couldn't answer. My mind raced for a way out, and just then, I spotted a staircase leading down, its shadows inviting yet terrifying. I took a deep breath and plunged into the darkness below, wondering if it was a chance for safety or a portal to whatever lay beneath this haunted building. I descended into the darkness, the dim light from above rapidly fading behind me. The stairs felt slick beneath my feet, like they had not been walked on in ages. I had no idea what lay below, but I was desperate enough to find out. As I reached the bottom, I found myself in a large room. Discarded medical equipment lay scattered across the floor, relics from a forgotten era. I scanned the area, my flashlight revealing broken stretchers and rusting wheelchairs, their presence a stark reminder of the lives that had once been touched here. The air smelled stale, thick with years of neglect. I shivered, a chill creeping up my spine. An unsettling silence enveloped me, broken only by the faint echoes of my own breath. I took a step forward, and my foot crunched on broken glass. The sound echoed, sending my heart racing again. Suddenly, a noise caught my attention, a soft thud, as if something had fallen in the distance. My muscles tensed. I paused, straining to hear any further sounds. Was I alone down here? Or were the shadows hiding more than memories? I took a cautious step deeper into the room. My flashlight beam illuminated a series of doors lining one wall. Each one was different, some half open, others tightly shut. The thought of what lay behind those doors sent another shiver down my spine. Then, I noticed it, a darker shape creeping along the far wall, moving just beyond the reach of my light. My heart raced as I squinted, desperate to make sense of what I was seeing. Was it a trick of the light? Or something more ominous lurking in the shadows? I took a tentative step closer, the weight of fear pulling at my chest. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. No response came, just the unsettling silence pressing in around me. I took another step, and the shape froze, blending into the darkness. I felt a pulse of dread surge through me. That's when I saw it, an old patient file lying open on a nearby stretcher. Curious, I approached, my flashlight beam landing on the yellowed papers. The name on the top sent a bolt of recognition through me. I knew this person, or at least I should have. It was someone close to me, someone I thought I had buried with my memories. Before I could fully grasp the implications, a loud crash echoed from behind one of the closed doors. My heart jumped, and instinct took over. I turned and ran, my flashlight slicing through the darkness as I darted toward the staircase. But I didn't make it far. The sound of hurried footsteps followed, a frantic rhythm that echoed my own racing heart. Someone or something was chasing me. I stumbled, struggling to reach the stairs, adrenaline coursing through me. The figure was gaining, looming large and threatening in the dim light that I had to get out. I dashed back the way I'd come, every instinct screaming at me to escape. But the stairs were just ahead, a beacon of hope. Would I make it in time? I could still hear those relentless footsteps behind me, growling like a beast hungry for its prey. That I reached the bottom of the stairs, the last rays of light disappearing behind me as I pushed myself up, ready to face whatever awaited above. But as I reached the top, everything went dark. The doors slammed shut with a resounding bang, and I was left alone in impenetrable blackness. I stood in the pitch-black hallway, my heart racing. The doors slamming shut felt like a death knell. Panic filled my lungs, squeezing the air from me. I fumbled for my flashlight, praying it hadn't died. My hands shook, but I managed to twist the cap and click it on. A beam of light flickered to life, cutting through the darkness around me. That I held my breath, listening. Silence. Was the thing that chased me still down there? Or had it vanished into the shadows? I hesitated, torn between the urge to flee and the need to understand what was happening. I took a cautious step down the hallway. The beam of my flashlight danced across peeling paint and broken tiles, adding to the sense of despair that hung in the air. With each step, I felt the weight of the darkness pressing in on me, urging me to turn back. Yet, I pressed forward, driven by a desire to know the truth. Then, I heard a faint sound, like a low whisper gliding through the air. It sent a jolt of fear through me. "Is someone there?" I called again, uncertainty creeping into my voice. The echo of my words faded, met only by the heavy silence. I turned back, scanning the area behind me, half expecting to see the dark figure materializing from the depths. My pulse quickened as I realized I was alone, or at least I thought I was. As I continued down the corridor, I saw another door slightly ajar to my left. A flicker of curiosity pushed me forward. What could be behind it? I nudged the door open with a trembling hand. It creaked ominously, revealing an empty room filled with dust-covered furniture. A single window, cracked and grime-coated, let in just enough light for me to see. That's when I noticed something on the floor. A small object glittered against the dirt, an old locket, tarnished yet beautiful. I knelt to pick it up, turning it over in my palm. It felt oddly warm against my cold skin. I opened it, revealing a faded photograph inside. The faces stared back at me, familiar yet distant. I recognized the woman, but not the man beside her. My mind raced. Was this another clue? I thought about the name on the patient file. Did the locket belong to the same person? Suddenly, the whisper returned, more urgent this time. "Help me!" A chill ran down my spine, and I stood abruptly, scanning the room. "Who is there?" I demanded, but the only response was silence. The locket slipped from my fingers, falling to the floor with a dull thud. I was not alone. Panic surged, and I bolted from the room, eyes wide and heart pounding. As I entered the hallway again, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind me. They were light yet hurried, like someone running to catch me. I didn't look back. I couldn't afford to that. I raced down the corridor, each step a frantic plea for escape. But suddenly the way ahead narrowed, leading to a staircase descending further into darkness. My mind screamed at me. Down there? I had to choose, face the terror behind me or descend into the unknown. As my breath came in shallow gasps, I made my choice. I turned and ran down the steps, thrusting myself into whatever awaited me below. The stairs creaked under my weight as I descended into the abyss. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. With each step, I braced myself for the unknown, the air growing thicker and colder. The beam of my flashlight flickered, struggling against the encroaching darkness. At the bottom of the stairs, I found myself in a cavernous room, its walls covered in dampness. My light caught glimpses of medical equipment covered in dust and grime. Old gurneys lay abandoned, their rusted wheels frozen in time. The atmosphere felt heavy, thick with the past, filled with echoes of what had once been. Then I heard it again. The whisper, closer now. Help me. It seemed to swirl around me, wrapping itself around my mind. I turned sharply, scanning every corner, my pulse racing. I was not alone, and the sense of urgency clawed at my gut. What do you want? I shouted, my voice betraying the fear I felt. No answer came, only the soft padding of feet echoing faintly behind me. I dared not move, frozen in place as the sounds intensified. It was as if something or someone was pacing, circling me in the dark. I edged back, my feet grazing the metal of the gurney. It squeaked under the pressure, and I winced. The whisper grew louder, almost pleading. Please. Suddenly, my flashlight battery sputtered, the beam dimming as shadows encroached. Panic surged again. I had to find a way out. I stumbled back, remembering the other hallways. Maybe I could find an exit, somewhere away from whatever was haunting me. I turned and sprinted toward the far side of the room, using the faint light from my dying flashlight to guide me. As I dashed past the old equipment, something caught my eye on one of the gurneys. It was a file tattered and yellowed. Against all better judgment, I snagged it before I could second-guess myself. Maybe this contained more answers. But just as I grasped it, the whisper transformed into a growl, a low rumble that vibrated through the damp structure. I froze. My heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. I couldn't stay here. I had to keep moving. I shoved the file into my pocket and bolted toward the neighboring door on the left. It groaned open on rusty hinges, revealing another dark space. I stepped inside and quickly closed the door behind me, sealing out the haunting breath of the hospital. Here, the shadows seemed to hold their breath. My flashlight flickered again, then steadied. I was in another small room, cluttered with what looked like old medical supplies and equipment long deemed obsolete. But then I saw a large mirror hanging on the wall, cracked and grimy. Without thinking, I approached it, compelled by a strange sense of urgency. That's when everything shifted. The image in the glass didn't match my own. It was a face I didn't recognize, staring back at me with hollow eyes. Someone was watching me, or maybe it was something else entirely. With a shudder, I stumbled backward, the door creaking ominously behind me. Whatever was in there with me, I could feel it closing in. I had to escape now. The door rattled as I pressed against it, my breath shallow. I needed a plan. This room felt smaller and more confining, the shadows wrapping me up in their embrace. I turned to the mirror again. My reflection still twisted and wrong. The face lingered, features distorted but unmistakably human. I shook my head, trying to clear the noise in my thoughts. I need to focus. Whatever was happening, I couldn't let it get to me. I stepped away, seeking the opposite wall to gather my thoughts. Then I noticed something on the floor. A small, rusted object glinted dimly. I knelt to examine it. It was an old key, its twisted shape oddly compelling. I pocketed it, hoping it might lead to a locked exit or provide some kind of escape. From somewhere beyond the door, I heard a shuffle, a soft sound against the concrete. My heart raced again. Should I open the door? Was it the presence that haunted me? Or something worse? I peered out through the crack. The hallway beyond was dim, illuminated only by sporadic flickers of broken lights. My eyes darted, searching for movement. Nothing. But the air felt charged, heavy with expectancy. Whatever had spoken to me before, it was still close. Cautiously, I stepped out. The floor groaned under my weight, betraying my every move. I decided to head left, where I had seen it turn earlier. Each step echoed loudly, marking my arrival in this haunted place. I walked quickly but softly, trying not to attract unwanted attention. As I approached the corner, I froze again. The whisper returned, wrapping around me like a fog. "Stay with me, no," I exclaimed, spinning back the way I came. But the atmosphere shifted. The growl I had heard earlier now resonated in my ears, low and threatening that I turned sharply again, the echoes chasing me. I sprinted down the hallway, dodging equipment and debris scattered across the floor. The key felt heavy in my pocket, a reminder of a way out, but where? Then I heard laughter. Faint but unmistakable. An innocent sound twisted into something sinister. I paused, horrified. It sounded like a child. Against my better judgment, I pressed forward, compelled by the unsettling combination of curiosity and dread. The laughter faded, replaced by a quiet sob. It called to me, weak and desperate. "Help me!" I was torn between fear and the need to help. I had to know what was happening. I followed the sound, trajectory winding through the darkness. It led me to a door at the end of the hall, thick and weathered, almost begging to be opened. My hand quivered above the knob, searching for bravery. Just as I grasped the cold metal, the sobbing stopped abruptly. I could feel something lurking behind me, hovering in the shadows. I took a deep breath, twisting the knob slowly. Just as the door began to creak open, a low voice rumbled in my ear, "You shouldn't have come here." I turned, but there was nothing. No one. Just the echo of my own quickening breath, and the gnawing dread of what lay ahead. I pushed the door fully open, heart pounding. The air inside felt electric, thick as if it held secrets I wasn't meant to uncover. As I stepped into the room, the sense of antiseptic and decay enveloped me. My flashlight swept across withering wallpaper, revealing old hospital beds and medical equipment, but it didn't take long before my attention was drawn to the center of the room. There, under a flickering light, a figure knelt. A woman, her back bent over some papers scattered across the floor. My breath caught in my throat as she turned slightly, looking up just enough for me to glimpse her haunted eyes, the same eyes from the photograph in the locket. "Why did you come back?" she murmured, her voice low, like wind through the trees. It struck an unsettling chord in me. Was she just another prisoner of this place? Her eyes seemed to search me, and something deep within me stirred, a recognition I couldn't fully place. I need to understand," I stammered, the weight of my own question crashing back. Did I truly want to understand, or was I merely entangled in the mystery of this abandoned hospital? Suddenly, the room shook as if the building itself were wrapping itself around me, alive with voices, the whispers swelling then collapsing into echoes all around. "Help me!" A child's voice drifted from somewhere unseen, tugging at my heart as if it were a physical thread interwoven with the fabric of the darkness surrounding us. Fear gripped me again, but I couldn't just run. There was something compelling about her presence, and yet the shadows dancing in the corners felt sharper now, more menacing. "Please," she urged, her voice carrying a haunting blend of desperation and sadness. I felt the room constrict, the air heavy. I glanced around at the rubble-strewn floor. The truth from her eyes weighed on me. In that moment, clarity struck. This place was a prison, not just for the spirits, but for I, too, was a captive of my avoidance. My past was clawing to be acknowledged. "I want to help." My voice was steadier than I felt. "But I don't know how." The woman seemed to melt back into the shadows. "Find the truth," she whispered. "Set us free." With that, She faded behind a bed, leaving me once again in silence except for the rustling whispers that echoed through every corner, a symphony of suffering that begged for release, and then, in the clarity amid the chaos, I felt compelled to move. I raced back to the hallway, determined to find whatever tied this all together. My flashlight bobbed wildly as I stumbled through, the cold grip of fear clenching again. I followed the soft echoes of laughter fading down hallways, small corpses of moments, memories lost to time. The air felt thick, but I kept going, until one last door appeared before me at the end of a dark corridor, heavy, marked with age and something more sinister. This has to be it, I whispered to myself. I grasped the key from my pocket tightly, the memory of that woman's plea igniting a spark of hope. With shaking hands, I inserted the key into the lock, turning it slowly. The door opened with a long groan, and beyond it lay a dusty room, dimly lit and filled with boxes and files stacked precariously. It felt like entering a tomb. My heart sank at the sight of more patient files they piled high, each labeled with names that felt familiar, painfully so. As I rifled through them, familiar faces detached from memory coalesced within the layers of dust. Suddenly, from somewhere deep in that heap, I grasped a document titled Experimental Treatments. I read quickly. Each line was a punch to the gut, revealing neglect and rituals gone awry. Names of patients who had suffered, one echoing disturbingly after the other. Then I saw her name, the woman from the picture, the one who had spoken to me. Adrenaline surged through me, and I realized, these were not just records, they were cries for help, remnants of lives tangled in horror, each one waiting for acknowledgement and justice. With every passing second, the atmosphere shifted, I could feel fragments of despair tightening around my chest. But I was so close. But when I wanted to reach for the pulse of hope, a realization struck me: I couldn't help them, and yet, by bearing witness to their haunted past, perhaps I could break the cycle and escape. "Why did you come back?" The voice echoed again, this time blending with the whispers around me. I felt the weight of every unasked question that had lingered and haunted me all my life. Before I could process what to do, the shadows coalesced around me, tightening their grip and swirling. Darkness engulfed my vision. And then it hit me: maybe I would never fully understand the horrors of this place, or whether I believed what I sensed was supernatural or merely a product of my shattered psyche. But in that darkness, I felt the weight lifting ever so slightly. Perhaps understanding lay not in the answers I found, but in the questions that lingered, and as the void swallowed me whole, I stumbled backward through time, shackled no longer. I stepped out into the light of morning, that I found myself shaken back to reality in that cold dawn, staring at the abandoned facade of the hospital. And despite everything, I couldn't turn away now, couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching, that I hadn't just left them behind. That as I walked away, burdened yet liberated by the shadows I faced, I knew I might never uncover the full truth of what happened in that building. But I carried their whispers with me, threading into my own life, questions that lingered on the edges of understanding. Back at my apartment, the glow of a new day crept through, illuminating the empty spaces of my mind. And though I was free, something deep within told me I still had yet to find peace. The echoes of the past would navigate my awareness, shaping how I saw the world. I would never be the same.